Hello friends, welcome to the new topic today. In this chapter we are going to learn about achalasia cardia. So in the achalasia cardia, this achalasia cardia is a pre-malignant lesion. So this achalasia cardia is a pre-malignant lesion. Here you will see the motor disorder. It is a motor disorder of esophageal smooth muscles. In this achalasia cardia, lower esophageal sphincter does not relax normally. In lower esophageal sphincter does not function normally in achalasia cardia. So here the esophageal body will undergo non-peristaltic contractions. Okay, so here the esophageal body undergoes non-peristaltic contractions. The incidence of achalasia cardia is 6 per lakh population. So it is most commonly seen in females, and it is a pre-malignant condition. Almost 8% of incidence of cancer can occur in 2 years. That means almost 8% of population who are suffering from achalasia cardia can progress to carcinoma in 20 years of age. What is the most common cancer associated with achalasia cardia? It is squamous cell cancer is the most common cancer associated with achalasia cardia. Then what is the adenocarcinoma? So adenocarcinoma can rarely occur in achalasia cardia. Adenocarcinoma is rarely seen, and in mid esophagus it is seen most commonly in the mid esophagus just below the air fluid level. But most common carcinoma in achalasia cardia is squamous cell carcinoma. Then what about the pathogenesis? In the pathogenesis, it mainly occurs due to the degeneration of ganglion cells of Auerbach plexus or myenteric plexus. So whenever there is degeneration of ganglion cells of Auerbach plexus and myenteric plexus, that will lead to achalasia cardia. Here the esophagus is dilated. So because there is lack of these ganglion cells, there is lack of contraction, and as a result you will see the dilated segment, and you will also see thickness and hypertrophy of lower esophageal sphincter is also seen. We have Hirschsprung disease. The difference between achalasia cardia and Hirschsprung disease is, in achalasia cardia there is degeneration of ganglion cells of Auerbach plexus and myenteric plexus, whereas in Hirschsprung disease there is absence of Auerbach plexus and submucosal, that is mesenteric plexus. Here both mucosal and submucosal plexus are lost, but in achalasia cardia only the myenteric plexus or Auerbach plexus is lost. Then what are the triad of achalasia cardia? The triad of achalasia cardia includes there is dysphagia, regurgitation and weight loss is seen in achalasia cardia. Then the patient presents with slowly progressive dysphagia, which is initial for liquids which progresses to solids. So here the patient starts eating slowly with lots of water to wash away the food from the esophagus. Here the patient presents with regurgitation and pulmonary aspiration. In the pulmonary aspiration there can be pneumonia, lung abscess or bronchiectasis. So pain is infrequently seen here. See the difference between the achalasia cardia and the nutcracker esophagus is, in nutcracker esophagus there will be lots of pain, whereas in achalasia cardia there will be infrequent pain. So this infrequent pain is present in achalasia cardia normally, but in type 3 achalasia cardia but the pain can be severe, which is type 3 achalasia or spastic achalasia. The pain is severe. Now we have to learn about the types of achalasia. Just now I have already shown you. So now the types of achalasia can be divided into 3 types: 1, 2, 3. In all the different, this is mainly divided into 1, 2, 3 based on these 3 things. One, we have distal contractile integrity. Second, we have mean integrating relaxing pressure. Okay, according to distal contraction integrity of type 1 is less than 450 millimeters of Hg centimeter second, whereas it is more than 450 millimeters of Hg in type 3, and it is normal or a little increased in type 2. Okay, then if you see mean integrating pressure is common in all of these, that is it is more than 15 millimeters of Hg. And in type 1 and type 2 there is 100% failed peristalsis, whereas in type 3 there is no normal peristalsis at all. So in if you see this type 1 and type 2, there is 100% failed peristalsis, whereas in type 3 there is no normal peristalsis. In type 2 we can see best prognosis is seen only in type 2 because the contraction is normal or isobaric. So though the others are not that they're not normal, but because of normal contractions, so it has good prognosis is type 2. Then what are the investigations that do you do in this condition? Investigation, sir, the first investigation is you should do a barium swallow. Okay, in the barium swallow you see bird's beak appearance. I'll show you all the pictures, just a minute. In the barium swallow you see bird's beak appearance. Then there is a phenomenon called as Hurst phenomenon. What is this Hurst phenomenon? In Hurst phenomenon, see, this is the dilated segment, this is the thin contracted segment, right? Now what happens here is the barium will come like this. Okay, it will fill the whole dilated segment and it will go to the this contractile segment also. So this thin stream of barium which is flowing beyond the bird's beak is called as Hurst phenomenon. So this is called as Hurst phenomenon. This thin stream of barium which is flowing beyond the bird's beak appearance is Hurst phenomenon because of increased esophageal pressure of the lower esophageal sphincter. Then what are the advanced cases? So in the advanced cases, the patient presents with megaesophagus and also sigmoid esophagus, which should be taken into account. Then what do you see on X-ray? On X-ray you see absent fundus gas. There won't be any fundus gas, and similarly there is air fluid level in the mediastinum is seen in chest X-ray. Okay, if you do an endoscopy will not help in diagnosis of achalasia cardia, but this will help to rule out the carcinoma, strictures or any other secondary causes. Then what is the most common investigation? Confirmatory investigation, that is investigation of choice is high resolution manometry, where you see lower esophageal sphincter pressure to be more than 35 millimeters of Hg. Integral relaxation pressure will be more than 15 millimeters of Hg. We have lower esophageal sphincter fails to relax with deglutition, and here the body of esophagus increases with pressure. So there is no evidence of progressive peristalsis also. So all this is the features which you see in achalasia cardia, that is in manometry. Then what are the drugs that are used? The drugs are first to dilate the contractile segments, we give these drugs. So the drugs like calcium channel blockers, sublingual nifedipine, nitroglycerin and nitrates are given. Okay, then we have endoscopic therapy. Endoscopic therapy is done for pneumatic dilatation. We can pass an endoscope, and then through the endoscope with the help of air we can dilate the contractile segment, and this will benefit for 6 months, because after 6 months it will come back to normal. Then there can be botulinum toxin injection can be given through endoscopy. But one important thing here is about the modified Heller's myotomy. With Taupet and Dorret fundoplication can be done. This modified Heller's myotomy with Taupet and Dorret fundoplication is the gold standard treatment which is available for now. What is it? Modified Heller's myotomy with Taupet's and Dorret's fundoplication, which is gold standard. So here you will see that the you will have to do a myotomy proximal to 6 centimeters above the esophagogastric junction and distal 1.1 to 2 centimeters inside the gastric site. Here the mucosa is not cut. I'll just show you the picture also, just a minute. So this is the incision that we give. So first we will see esophagogastric junction. This is esophagogastric junction. We give 6 centimeters. We give incision up to 6 centimeters above the esophagogastric junction, and we give the incision 1 to 2 centimeters into the gastric side. Okay, so we are giving 6 centimeters above the esophagogastric junction and 1 centimeter below the 1 to 2 centimeters below the gastric site. Okay, so this is about modified Heller's myotomy, right? Next, in modified Heller's myotomy, we are only opening the serosa and muzzle. Okay, we do not touch the mucosa. because if we touch the mucosa there will be through and through perforation, which we do not want. So we do not touch the mucosa. Then what are the recent advances? The recent advances that we have is, we have this per oral endoscopic myotomy can be done by endoscopy. So we have per oral endoscopic myotomy can be done by endoscopy. If this is failed, this per oral endoscopic myotomy is failed, then we can do esophagectomy. Okay. Then incidence of esophageal perforation. Incidence of esophageal perforation during dilatation is 4%, and incidence of esophageal perforation during myotomy is 12%. See, incidence of esophageal perforation during dilatation is 4%, and incidence of esophageal perforation during myotomy is 12%, right? Then we have something called as pseudoachalasia. So what is pseudoachalasia? Pseudoachalasia is a condition where the esophageal sphincter is normal, lower esophageal sphincter is normal, okay, but the problem here is structurally normal, okay, but the problem here is there is some external thing which is pressing. So if this is the esophagus, just think that this is the esophagus and there is a cancerous growth which is seen outside the esophagus or in the esophagus, and this is compressing the esophagus. Now the problem is not in the muscles or Orbeck plexus, but here the problem is mainly in the adenocarcinoma. So these are the problem is in the outside. So the outside, it can be due to adenocarcinoma, oat cell carcinoma, or pancreatic cancer. So these will infiltrate the lower esophagus, thus causing no relaxation of lower esophageal sphincter. Okay, this is important. Then what is the difference between achalasia and pseudoachalasia is also important. So we call something as pseudoachalasia. If to differentiate between this, we can give a test which is called as inhalation of amyl nitrate. So when we give inhalation of amyl nitrate, this amyl nitrate will help in sphincter relaxation, whereas this amyl nitrate helps in sphincter relaxation in achalasia cardia. It does not help in sphincter relaxation in pseudoachalasia cardia. This thing you should remember. Then the last, what is the etiology of achalasia cardia? The etiology of achalasia cardia is, it can be congenital or it can be secondary. In secondary, it can be due to the infection of Trypanosoma cruzi, which is Chagas disease, or megaesophagus. It can be due to stress or vitamin B1 deficiency. So primary achalasia is congenital, whereas secondary achalasia includes, we have Trypanosoma cruzi infection like Chagas disease or megaesophagus. This infection can destroy the mesenteric plexus. Okay, then there are two things which are important, two miscellaneous syndromes. They are, one, we have Allgrove's syndrome or triple A syndrome. These Allgrove syndrome or triple A syndrome is autosomal recessive disorder, and we have achalasia cardia, alachremia, adrenocorticotropic hormone resistant adrenal insufficiency. This Allgrove syndrome or triple A disease, we have, it is an autosomal recessive disorder. It causes achalasia, alachremia, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and resistant adrenal insufficiency. There is one more thing which is called as achalasia like disease. In this achalasia like disease, this is associated with Down syndrome or Allgrove syndrome. It is also associated with diabetic autonomic neuropathy, infiltrative disorders like malignancy, amyloidosis, and we have sarcoidosis, lesions of dorsal motor nuclei. So all these will also cause polio, or surgical ablation can also occur. So this is about the achalasia like syndrome. Okay. So this is the picture of achalasia cardia, which you can see where the lower esophageal sphincter does not relax. There is failure of relaxation of lower esophageal sphincter. Okay, in this picture you can see the megaesophagus where this is bird beak appearance. So this is the appearance of bird beak appearance which you see here. And in this you can see normally here in the fundus there should be gas shadow, but here there is one loss of fundal gas shadow. it causes loss of fundal gas shadow. And here, even here you can see this, widening which you see. Okay, this is about the achalasia cardia. Thank you guys for watching my lecture. In the next class we will learn about new disorder. Thank you.